Okay, this is October 27th. I'm doing another election update, kind of on the latest state of the race. Basic developments here post the final debate seem to be moving perhaps in Trump's favor, I think. I believe Trump has the momentum now, and it looks as if Biden is playing from a position where he believes he has an advantage and is trying to maintain it and avoid gaffes. Um, there's also the possibility that both campaigns are engaging in political feints, which aren't reflecting reality but trying to create perceptions, such as, well, for instance, when Trump makes a maneuver toward Nevada, does he really think he's going to win that? Or when, for instance, Biden goes to Georgia, does he really think he's going to win that? Well, it's possible in both cases. Anything could happen, I think, at this stage, particularly given the turnout issue, which is one of the big uncertainties, which I'll get to later. Um, so let's look at the polling data, the latest out. The Real Clear average of polls, which has 11 different polls and it's spread over time, many of which are not current, but gives an average of 7.6% advantage to Biden. Now, if we break that down into, there's a kind of a disconnect between polls that are basically tend to be more favorable to Trump and polls that tend to be very hostile, such as, say, Quinnipiac and so forth. And when you look at those separations, if you pull out the favorable polls, that would give Biden an advantage. Don't worry about this, but 8.7. I'm going to illustrate a point. If you take the latest Rasmussen and IBD tip, which IBD tip is around 4% now, coming back down from 7, which shows it's a bit of a volatile poll, and Rasmussen is 2 points in favor of Trump. Excuse me, in favor of Biden, moving up from 1 point in favor of Trump the day before. Both indicate volatility. But if you average the values from the day before and today, they still are Biden ahead by 3 in both cases, which is a much tighter race than what you see in the Real Clear average, particularly if you look at the 8.7 when you take out these two polls, which says that these two methodologies are essentially outside of their confidence levels, meaning that there's methodology differences in these polls that are driving the outcomes, not just this statistical random sampling variation. And I think that's an important point. So that gets into, I guess, who do you think you believe? Do you think that Quinnipiac, which is consistently favoring the Democrats everywhere it polls just about, is being honest? Or do you think that Rasmussen and IBD tip at least is trying? So I think based on that, I tend to favor the polls that are more favorable to Trump, not just because it makes me feel better, which is it does, but also because I think when you really look at it, they're more credible. I think Rasmussen's particular technology seems to perhaps penetrate through a little bit of the shy voter effect that you see when you're actually talking to a political science major on the phone with a lengthy interview. And I think a lot of people are worried of the cancel culture, hostility to polling, hostility to the media, I think is causing some conservatives not to participate, perhaps. We'll find out after Election Day, right? But so that's where we are. So I'm looking at right now is probably about a 3-point race at the national level. And what does that mean for the actual Electoral College, which is a big deal? I've never had any serious hope of a Trump popular vote national victory in this election. If it does happen, that'd be great. It'd be good for the country. But so I think what it comes down to is how's he doing in specific states? And it's looking to me like, again, you have all kinds of random polls running around, but it looks to me like that Trump is doing pretty good in most of the southern states that he won before. It looks like he's doing good in Florida, hopefully North Carolina, I think Georgia, and of course Texas. And it looks like he's doing better in Arizona now. So if he can win those, what he has to really do to win the election is to win one of the big states up there, such as Pennsylvania or Michigan, or a couple of states. Technically, I guess if he won everything I mentioned before, Wisconsin would do it, but it would only leave you at exactly 270. And that's what becomes very dangerous because of the unfaithful elector. Will we have any this time? I don't know. We only had 2 last time. And that only happened after Trump had won. And I believe they went for libertarians in Texas. So we'll have to see how that plays out on that. But it would be good to have at least 275 or something like that. So, have a little margin, a little wiggle room there. So and Trump is campaigning heavily in a variety of states. Three appearances in Pennsylvania yesterday, and I think he has some momentum there because of the oil issue and the fracking issue. I think favors Trump to pull something out. We also have the issue of the lack of poll watchers in the Philadelphia area, and if there's going to be fraud, that's probably where it's going to happen. I don't know. It looks like that the Pennsylvania system is reasonably secure as far as mail-in voting. The real issue always is registered voters and that aren't really there anymore. But it seems like they have some safeguards. So I don't know. Perhaps that may be an overstated issue. And I think also with Justice Barrett now entering the Supreme Court, we may have more favorable outcomes than Republican appeals of various lower court rulings on people making last-minute changes in election laws and stuff like that. Which, I mean, these, like executive orders where, well, we can let the thing, count it 6 or 7 days after the election or something like that. Those are issues. I think the big issue that we have to look at, I think on Pennsylvania, is making sure that the signatures match. That's always important. So that's kind of how we're looking at it here. The other issue is turnout. For instance, in Texas, they're having an absolutely spectacular turnout in terms of, I think they're reaching now numbers. There were almost 9 million votes in the 2016 presidential election. And I think as of yesterday, they were around 7.1 or 2 million already cast in early voting, which is kind of interesting because from my perception, there doesn't seem to be much merit to the Biden campaign. He hasn't campaigned here at all. The ad flow I see is, it doesn't seem to be that competitive. The most rough ads I tend to see are mainly at the local, the state legislative races, I guess, seem to be pretty heated. But I don't know exactly. Maybe people are just frustrated by the lockdowns and are just, this is something I can do and go out and vote. We'll see how. Well, I guess the issue is, will this bring out a group of voters that have a particular slant to them before, or will it just be a representative group turning out in greater numbers? And that's what's unclear. We'll see on that. But there is always the possibility that an aberrant turnout in a given state could flip a state in a way that nobody would expect. For example, on the other hand, Minnesota, with all the rioting in Minneapolis and a general perception it's a safe Democrat state, what if there's a strange vote there that flips it to the Republicans? That's another possibility. Then obviously Biden at least has some inclination on Georgia, or he wouldn't be wasting his time there. I doubt on the Senate races in Georgia, I doubt the Democrats will really bag them, because I doubt either side is going to really get 50% plus one on the election day, and more than likely there'll be runoffs, which probably will go to the Republicans. At least I'm hoping. That's what has happened historically on those kind of races for 25 years. Kind of a unique situation in that state. Senate races, of course, there's a lot of them. I think a lot of them will be more competitive than normal, but I still tend to think that the Senate races that are probably still most at risk are probably Colorado. I don't know. That seems to be the one for Republicans, and let's see what else would be. For a while, it looked like Montana was, although I tend to think Trump will win Montana by a sufficient level to pull Daines over the line if there's any issue. Arizona is another one that's pretty tight and very, very risky for Republicans. I think a couple of developments. I don't know whether Buzz Aldrin's endorsement of McSally will have any impact, or the claim that somebody put out that they saw Kelly dressed up as Adolf Hitler in some kind of a stunt or something. I don't know if that'll have any impact at all, but it is closing up, and it looks like Trump is doing better in Arizona, so one can hope there. And also the Iowa race seems to be pretty competitive, although again I would think that Trump will win Iowa, although Biden is obviously seeing it worth making a stop there, I believe, in his limited campaign area. So that kind of is the state of the race at the moment. We'll just have to see what happens. I think that um, the one thing about it is I would say don't listen to media. If just go out and vote. If you have any friends that are going to vote the right way, try to make sure they vote too by talking to them. And if you have any extra money, I mean, it's obviously true the Republicans are running short of cash compared to the Democrats. The Democrats have raised massive amounts of cash, and I think the Supreme Court vacancy really helped them out in fundraising a lot. Which, on the other hand, the Republican side seem to have a bank of money ready to run ads for that sort of thing, and although they don't directly address the presidential candidates or the Senate candidates themselves, they definitely are pro the confirmation of Barrett, and that might have a residual effect. So it looks right now like it's really, again, to me, too close to really call what the electoral outcome will really be. Um, the biased media and social media is doing everything they can to suppress Trump's vote, but the Trump people seem to have a lot of enthusiasm. But again, rallies aren't what it's. If an unenthusiastic voter voting for Biden is just as counts as much as an enthusiastic Trump voter does, and so again, we don't know. But it looks like there's a fair chance that Trump will manage to pull out a very narrow win here, in my opinion. And the momentum is in his direction, I think, post debate. And so I think he should maybe be able to gain a point or two in the national popular vote between now and election. A lot of the Republicans apparently have chosen to vote in person, and I think that they're either using early voting or election day voting in person. Um, and that should help bring the totals back to some more normal level. Oh, I guess that's about it for now. If you like these videos, and if you have a YouTube channel, please subscribe. Give me a like otherwise, and you can forward links to this to anybody who wants to see them. I'll continue to track the election. All for now.